Oh, hey guys, welcome back to Hands On channel. Let me turn this off. To continue our series on essential shop tools, I wanted to share with you guys the next up on the list is a bench grinder, or in this case, a pedestal type grinder. Not in the traditional sense, but it's a 10-inch grinder that I felt was too large to put on a bench top anywhere, and I thought I'd have better access to it and better workability if I put it over here in this corner, and it's worked out great. If you watched the previous video, I talked about I had a couple of stands made up, one for my vise over here behind me and one for this bench grinder, and basically it was the same material, that light pole. It's about probably a 8-inch square pole. It was galvanized, and I had a guy weld on these angle iron brackets at the bottom down here and this eye channel on the top here so that I could mount my bench grinder onto the top of that plate there, and it would give me a nice solid structure to base my whole grinder station on. But yeah, this thing is awesome. So let me bring the camera around here and I'll show you guys a little close-up of the front, what it looks like, and we'll talk about how I came to own this thing. So here's a close-up of the label here. This is a 10-inch ball bearing Black & Decker bench grinder. And it's kind of hard to read these because they're so faint now, but there's not really, I can't make out a date on here, a production date, but I'm guessing this thing probably 50s, 60s, sometime in that time frame, just from the look of it and the overall, the different embellishments that they put on things at that time. Like, here's an example right here. This is the original plate off of it, and you can see these are raised letters here that, so this thing was, a cast piece. They had a special casting probably for this, and, it had all of these raised letters in that casting, and it says, General Electric, made in the USA, to reset, move to off, then to on. So, just some good information like that. I cleaned that up. It had rust all over it. I cleaned it up, painted it silver so that it would, kind of pop on the machine there. As you can see, I just painted over the existing paint because, it is a bench grinder, or a grinder, so it doesn't have to be beautiful or anything. It just has to do the job. This thing has ball bearings down in each end down here, and when you remove these, you can take these shrouds and these covers off, and there's a place on the top over here where you can drop some oil down inside of there, and I usually do that about once a year just to keep it rolling nice and smooth like that. But this thing is a beast. In fact, I was trying to think of what I'm going to name this grinder, because I like to name some of my, my most precious tools like this. This is one of my favorites, and I've named it the Moag, the mother of all grinders, because at some point it takes a big grinder to make all the rest of the other small, less significant grinders. And again, I'm not trying to say you have to have a big giant grinder like this, a 10-inch. You could probably get by with a 6 or an 8 or something like that. But the way I acquired this was that someone in my life, through some dealings that they came across, they knew of a company that was throwing this out. They were going to just destroy this thing, throw it in the trash can. And he was like, whoa, I know a guy that might want to fix this thing up and use it. And basically what had happened was the power cords had failed on it at one point or another. It still had a little piece of the cloth wrapped cord. It was a cloth insulation that they used to put on some of the older tools. So that kind of dates this thing. And so what I had to do was go inside of it, and most of the wiring is up underneath this pedestal down here at the bottom. So I had to get into that. I put new switches in it. I put modern switches in everything. Here and here for the lights. And one of the great things about this, you can't see what I'm pointing at there. Got you there. One of the great things about these shrouds here, normally I take them off of most of the other newer type grinders because they're just in the way and they're flimsy. But these things are stout. They're not going anywhere. They've got safety glass in here, opposed to, rather than plastic like they normally put in everything now. This is actual real glass, and that's great. because it's easier and it's actually more durable than the plastic. The plastic being soft, anything that flies up there, especially hot sparks, will blur your vision pretty quick on that. With this glass ones, they stay good for a long time, and you can still change them out if you know somebody that cuts glass or where you can order glass like that. But anyways, yeah, the way I acquired this thing was that they were going to throw this out, and this old boy said, "Oh, I know a guy that wants this. He'll fix it up and use it." And he brought it to me, and I took it apart to a point. I didn't completely disassemble the case. I left all that together because I knew it was working. It just needed to be rewired. So that's what I did. And it did not have these tool stands here, tool rests, when I got it. So I made these. I had access to a mill at the time, and I put some slots and some. This was a piece of angle iron that I cut out back here and left this long down here and put some slots in. So it was a fairly easy build, and it worked out great. Gave me a nice solid perch here to rest my tools on when I'm doing my work, sharpening lawnmower blades or whatever I might be doing that day, shortening down bolts. There's just a ton of different things you can do with a grinder like this. And I've got a fine stone over here for your finer work, and a coarse stone over here for your more rugged work. So let's get you back over here for a moment. And if you don't know, other than some of the stuff I just mentioned, lawnmower blades, things like that. One of the other videos I mentioned the being able to take a bolt like this that you've maybe cut off, right? Say you've got a jagged edge like that, and you want to straighten that out right quick. I'll just show you guys real quick how easy this is and how great it is. I mean, right now you probably couldn't thread the bolt on there or the nut because it's got a piece sticking out here. So first thing we're going to do is flatten that out right over here on the course, and try to go all the way across the face. That'll make your stones last longer. In other words, don't just concentrate in one spot. Move all the way across it like that. Okay, when we get it relatively flat, doesn't have to be perfect, but we get it relatively flat like that. Now we can move over here to this stone. And normally I do it this way, so it's be a little awkward for me, but what you do is you hold it in at an angle like this. And what I like to do, about a 45-degree angle to the stone, and then you start threading the thing in like this, like you're starting the bolt into a hole. And you just it's kind of hard to work across the face and do all this at the same time and talk to you guys, but this is basically how you can clean that mess up on the end down there. And so if you need to shorten bolts for if you're doing any kind of automotive work or anything like that, you're going to eventually run across this deal where you have to shorten bolts up, and you want to clean them up on the end like that. You don't want them to be all gnarly. And right there, I don't actually have a nut real close by, but I guarantee you that right there, I could start a nut on that without even running a die down on it. If you wanted to be extra cautious, you could run your nut up on there first, do the grinding, and then run the nut back out off of it, and that would clean the threads out so that it's practically, in fact, it's probably better in some instances. This shape here is better than the factory shape because these things can snag you. So if you've got a bolt sticking out somewhere, on the end of maybe your kid's swing set or something like that, you don't want a nice, a big sharp thing like that sticking out. You can clean it up like this and make it less likely to cut somebody or animal or whatever. So just something to know, good little handy tip to have there for your bench grinder. But yeah, just a ton of stuff you can do. You can sharpen knives with them. Now, you probably don't want to sharpen your favorite, expensive knives with them. You probably want to do those by hand. But, just old knives around the shop that you would use for cutting wire and things like that, sharpening tools, just tons and tons and tons of uses. One thing is that with a machine, with this, the reason I left these on here on this particular big, mother of all grinders here is because it actually has and you can see it shake just a little bit when it hits certain RPMs, but it has a a pipe back here where I could hook this up to my dust collector or a shop vac. And if I'm doing a lot of work, you know, if I'm doing a bunch of production level stuff where I'm grinding the same thing over and over and over for a long time, then I'll hook up my shop vac to that, and it keeps the dust down quite a bit and collects all the crap and keeps it off the floor. I mean, look at that. It's like the fender off of a 57 Chevy or something. I mean, look at all the work they put into that. Amazing. And again, it's got the, you know, I changed these switches out so that they'd be safe to use. One of the really neat features about this thing is this right back here. This little joint that they made. It's kind of an elegant design. You know, you take an Allen wrench and you can loosen this up. You can turn it this way on that rotation there. And then there's a knuckle right here with a bunch of, oh, it's keyed. It's kind of hard for me to explain it, but maybe you can see that. Of course, it's shaking a little now, but it's kind of keyed in there so that you loosen this Allen wrench up here, or Allen nut on the other side actually, and then you can change the angle this way. And it locks in once you put it in place. And then you can also turn the whole thing on a rotation this way. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you're seeing what I'm doing there. But anyways, guys, yeah, just a really neat thing. And you can just see the age in this, in a machine like this, when you look at them. And I encourage you guys, go out and look at estate sales, look on Craigslist. You know, don't always feel like you got to buy your tool brand new, especially in a case like this where you can get something ancient like this that's little or no money, you know, a little or no value to the previous owners. They were going to just throw it away. And for me, it's a freaking masterpiece.